The Buschy and Bobo Show, a healthy scratch podcast. Here's your hosts, Kyle Busch and Brian Rager.
Welcome back to episode 27, the Buschy and Bobo Show. Buschy flying solo today. Me and Bobo are going to do another episode. We have a lot to talk about. This one, obviously, being in the Red Wings dressing room again, wearing my Red Wings jersey. This is a Detroit Red Wings episode. And I wanted to do this because it's been a while since I've done just a regular YouTube video on the Red Wings. And there's a lot to talk about in terms of how the season went and what we should expect going forward. So if it was with just me and Bobo, he'd just be listening. So let's just do it this way. The biggest news that just dropped in the last week is Jeff Blashill. He gone. And you know what? So is Doug Huda and Jeff Slacko. So they were the defensive coach and the goalie coach. And honestly, long time coming. We talked about this in a podcast a couple episodes ago, I'd say. And I kind of wanted Blashill gone with like 11 games left in the season. I wanted him gone a long time ago, and he's gone. And we're going to move on and see who are they going to bring in. I have no idea. And looking at people with speculation, it's kind of something where, like, as a fan now, I go, what do we actually know? Not a whole lot. You're going to just read some names. You're going to read the tired lists of the likes of John Tortorella and Joel Quenneville and the list of recycled coaches that the NHL just can't move on from. I don't think Yzerman's going to do that. If I had to guess, it's going to be someone probably that he's been watching for a while. I don't know the guy, but from what we've been seeing, he does things very calculatively, and he's probably been looking at a head coach for a while. He's being very coy, like I'm going to try and break down just a little bit of his press conference at the end of the year. It wasn't just about Blashill, it was about the team in general. And there was a lot of things that I found interesting, but there are some coaches out there that you keep hearing about. Lane Lambert, who used to play with Yzerman, and he's an assistant with the Islanders right now, I think. Rickard Gronberg, he coaches Zurich. He's a Swedish guy, the beard and the slick back. There's a clip on there where he's freaking out. I showed Brian that last episode. And Roger Ronberg from Frölunda, and there's some NCAA coaches. There's going to be somebody that comes in. I think the only one that he's kept on the staff was Alex Tanguay, and then there was another coach that I've never heard of. But basically, Yzerman's guys are still there. But it was time. Blashill's been here since I think 2015, and I mean they haven't got better. And Yzerman said a lot of that was personnel. The funniest thing that Yzerman said during the press conference was, like, halfway through, he realized, wait, I should probably say something about Jeff Blashill. So he goes, I want to say that Jeff Blashill is a good coach. And under the circumstance, he goes, pardon my expression, but he made sure that this wasn't a complete shit show. Now, I listened to that and I laughed because I went, shit show. This was a shit show, in my opinion. I mean, 11-2 loss, 9-1, like just insanity, right? I think he was saying in terms of handling the media, which I think the media in Detroit they don't ask really that hard questions, where it's not really that hard hitting. It's pretty easy to answer, and you're going to get the same stuff from a head coach anyway. A lot of these coach and player interviews, I don't think they really do a whole lot. I don't even know why they still do them. What the answer is going to be. They're not going to tell you anything of note, and if it is, then it's always controversial. So with Blashill being gone, I think I don't even know when they're going to name another coach. I mean, Yzerman even said, he's like, well, before training camp, well, that's in September, so he's going to take his time. He'll do his due diligence. I'm sure whoever he gets will be the right guy. We did talk about how his only two hires as, an NHL GM has been Guy Buschy and John Cooper in Tampa Bay. And both of them didn't have NHL experience. So I think he is going to obviously not limit himself to, a certain region. He said he's not going to limit himself to, different experience levels. He was talking about how, Detroit's defense was so porous this year. He said they, regressed. Hearing the word regressed from your GM is right on to the coach. I mean, Yzerman's putting these players in thinking, okay, this is going to help us get better, when in fact they got worse. He said individually defensively and as a team defensively, they did get worse. And obviously with some of these losses that I just mentioned, yeah, they got worse. And this was a season where I thought they'd pivot. And I think a lot of people think when I say I expected a little bit more, I didn't expect them to make the playoffs. I mean, look at this conference is insane. The East, everybody was over 100 points. That's in the playoffs. I expected them to compete. They did in some games, especially in the first half of the season. Yzerman did say they had a really tough schedule into the second half. Doesn't excuse the effort level. And I think that's something where I don't think he really mentioned that, but that was a big part of it, is the team kind of quitting. And now, yeah, the coach is gone, but at the same time, he said there will be changes. The player and personnel, there will be changes, because there has to be. There has to be, right? If you got to earn your job, and some of these guys didn't look like they were too interested. And we'll go through some of the statistics, the players, the team, and break it down a little bit and see who did get better, who did regress, and who might benefit from a new voice in the dressing room, because there are some players that I think, needed that. Looking at the team, they finished 22nd, well, league ranked 22nd. They're probably gonna have I think it's the 8th or 9th best odds in the draft lottery. And we know how that goes. If we're Red Wings fans, it doesn't really go that well, but you never know. They're going to get a good player. It's a top 10 pick. Their goals for, they were 24th. Not scoring that much, right? I mean, goals against 29th. That's not good. Goals for percentage 30th. Power play, they were right in the middle, 15%, which is surprising to me. Their finishing was 22. Goaltending lower. I mean, they were in the bottom third and almost bottom 10, bottom 5 in a lot of things. So they have a lot of improving to do. Now, looking at their goals for and goals against per 60, they actually did get they scored more, but they got scored on more as well. So compared to last year, but the goals for is going up. The goals against this year was really bad. I think it has to do with some of the defense. Obviously, like Nedeljkovic had his moments. He had some good games, but he also had some stinkers. Thomas Greiss was horrendous this year, and he'll be gone. So there's going to be changeover in that. Obviously on defense and then up front too. So just looking, obviously looking at the team stats, it just kind of shows you a quick shot of, these guys just aren't where they should be. They have to be better next year. If we want to look at, let's look at the player stats. We'll check that out real quick. Okay. So, the usual suspects at the top. So, we have Dylan Larkin, 69 points in 71 games. He was basically a point per game player, and that's what you want from Larkin. I have a video that's, should the Red Wings trade Larkin? This was the beginning of the season. And what I said in that video, if you, didn't just look at the title, was, if he had a really good season this year and he had a bounce back season, obviously you keep him. He's your captain. He had a bounce back season, 31 goals, 38 assists. I mean, minus 18. Everyone was minus on this team. I'm not even going to go through that, but he did have a very good year. You're keeping him. And he said he wants to get an extension. He wants to get locked up here. So I'm going to assume, maybe towards the end of the summer, you can get, like an 8-year deal done with him. And people will go, well, why would you do 8 years? Well, because he's your guy. You're not going to give him a 3-year deal. He's going to go, well, I don't want that. You're either here or you're not. And I think that's something where, you commit to him, you give him 7.5 a year is what I think he'll get. And you give him 8 years. And he's your captain for a long time. Tyler Bertuzzi, 30 goals. I think he got it in the last game, the empty netter. I mean, the team obviously was very pumped for him. So everybody's shitting all over the kid that's saying, he's not a team guy, the COVID, the vaccines. Shut up. Honestly, you can tell the guys they love the guy. And he's a good player. He's feisty. On a team where you're getting scored on a lot, of minus 11 isn't bad. And, 68 games. He played basically the same amount as Larkin, played together basically the whole season. And he's a guy that I would keep him around. And Yzerman has said he's wanting to lock up Larkin and Bertuzzi to deals. Could I see Bertuzzi being traded? We talked about it at the deadline. Yeah, I could, because he's got worth. But I don't know if I would trade him unless someone blows you out of the water and you get this amazing deal. Lucas Raymond, rookie season, 23 goals, 34 assists for 57 points, played every single game. And so did Mo Seider. Those are the two, other than Pius Suter played every game as well. Those are the three. And Seider with 50 points as a rookie defenseman. I mean, he's going to win the Calder. We know that's going to happen. If he doesn't, I don't know what people are looking at. But obviously Raymond and Seider, I mean, I got my Raymond jersey on here. If you can see that, boop, there it is. We have a good future with these two guys. Really with our top four, those guys are the pieces that won't move. They will be here. When we get into the Philip Hroniks of the world, he had 38 points quietly. Like I didn't think he had a good season. I really didn't. I mean, he turnover machine, and 38 points is great, but he's not that top pair guy that maybe we thought he was going to be. Now, if you have Seider on your top pair, not that they would do exactly these pairings, but Simon Edvinsson's coming over. He signed his entry level. He's probably making the team. I mean, we looked at Seider. I mean, Edvinsson's not that much different style-wise they are, but in terms of he's going to come over and immediately be your second best defenseman. He's going to be. Like, I have no doubt in my mind he's coming in. He's earning a spot on this team because there's not a lot of competition. I mean, he's going to be here. They need players. So if you have Seider and Edvinsson as your 1-2, can Phil Hronik be like a solid number 3? I think so. On a playoff team, I think he's a 4. So I think you need to find someone else to balance that out. Pius Suter, honestly, was a very, very good pickup in the offseason by Yzerman. Hit 15 goals, 36 points. I think that's something where, is he a second line center? He did well in that role. Again, on a playoff team, I think he's a third line center, and that's fine. That's where I think he would slot in and be really, really effective. And quietly, Sam Gagner, he was like 7th in the team in points. That's insane. I mean, at fourth line minutes, 13 goals, 18 assists. I like 7 of those goals are empty netters, let's be honest. But -4, that's actually not, like, are you kidding? On the fourth line on Detroit, and you did that? He was a solid penalty killer. I think they threw an A on his jersey the last game of the season. I could see Sam Gagner coming back in the same role that we had him this year. And that wouldn't bother me. That'd be the one guy, the older guy, that I would bring back because he's not going to cost you that much. And I think you do need guys like that in the locker room. Robbie Fabry got hurt. I mean, he had 17 goals. He only played 56 games, 30 points. He's signed to an extension, so he's here for a few more years. And we'll go through the contract situation after we look at some of these points. But obviously, when he got hurt, he's kind of a streaky player. I think he'd get a couple of goals here and there, get some points, and then you wouldn't see him for a few games. The one guy that I was actually really impressed with at the second half of the season, I wish I had like split stats, was Michael Rasmussen. Now this guy, actually, I thought, get rid of him, because beginning of the year he looked like Bambi out there. I mean, for a 6'5" or 6'4", however big he is, he played like he was my height, like 5'8". Like, he was getting pushed around. A guy like that, a 9th overall pick, you want him, and especially that big, you want him to use his body, and he has hands. He knows how to score. He tore it up in junior. I think what kind of messed him up at the beginning was he had to be on the Red Wings, or he had to go back to, I think it was Tri-City in the WHL. But there was that rule where you couldn't go to the AHL. I think a year in Grand Rapids that year would have benefited him greatly, but he bounced back this season. And I mean, he was a different player in the second half. And I know that's when the Wings weren't that good, but he was one of the driving forces, whenever you'd see the play being made. Rasmussen played really well. Flip side, Filip Zadina. This is the one guy that a coaching change, I hope a coaching change helps him. I'm not totally giving up on him yet, but like 74 games and 10 goals as a 6th overall pick, that's not good. I mean, that's you're looking at almost like bust level pick right here, because you need more from Filip Zadina. Now, like, did he get opportunities? When he did on the top line, he did produce, but he is a player that when I watch him, he doesn't produce himself. So and what I mean by that is, you look at Dylan Larkin, Tyler Bertuzzi, Lucas Raymond, Seider, all the top players, they make plays. They're the ones that are they can score by themselves if they need to. Filip Zadina looks like a player that is a little more perimeter, that needs to play with someone good to produce. And I think, with the right players, and we'll get to Verana, but with the right players, I think he could thrive. But I was hoping that he would be a player that would be able to create more by himself. Now, maybe he was handcuffed by Jeff Blashill's system. I think he was in the doghouse a few times, for whatever reason. But I think a new coach for Zadina will help him. And if it doesn't, it's probably time to move on, which sucks because I thought he was, going to be a top 6 player for us, but he still has time. He's still young. I mean, Jacob Vrana was out for basically the whole season. He played 26 games, had that shoulder surgery last offseason, and 13 goals. He was goal every other game. And he's a bona fide top 6 winger, and you keep him around for sure. Again, I think anybody on this team can get traded other than your top 4 players there. But, Vrana, if the price, was right, then, I would move him too. But this guy can score. I mean, next year, could he get, he's going to bag 30, I would think. Could he get 40? Maybe he could. He's, again, a younger guy too. Adam Ernie, I have no idea why he's still on this team. I don't know what he brings. A lot of people are creaming their jockeys over Adam Ernie. He is a replacement level player. I remember seeing on Twitter, there's this guy that was just going to bat for him. It might've been his dad, honestly. I don't know, because I don't understand why, he was still in the lineup. He was just not effective at all this year. People are like, well, he scored last year. Yeah, his shooting percentage was off the charts. He was going to come crashing down, and he did this year. You don't want a minus 22 on your 4th line. Yeah, just how it is. Mark Stahl, who I thought would be my whipping boy, played really well. And again, another guy where I weirdly wouldn't mind if they bring him back for another year, because when we go through the contracts, you're going to see there's not a lot of options. And for a steady -1, he led the team in plus minus. That's something as a 35-year-old, good for Mark Stahl. Where we thought maybe the game had kind of passed him by, being physical. But I would bring him back. Gustav Lindstrom was quietly okay. He was pretty average, which is something going forward. Maybe he is a bottom 6, the bottom pair defenseman, and he's just quietly does his thing. I'm fine with that. Danny DeKeyser, he's gone. He's going to get shot out of a cannon. We're looking down into the depths here, but Oscar Sundqvist in his limited time with the Wings after that trade from St. Louis, he played well, as a big body. Skating probably needs some work, but as for a big guy, 4 goals, 4 assists, on that third line, you could fill that role, and he's going to be back next year too. Getting into some of the lower ones here. We can do that when we get into the contracts, I guess, but let's actually look at that right now. Actually, first of all, goalies, here we go. Alex Nedeljkovic, 3.31 goals against average, save percentage 901. 901 is not bad. It's not great, but it's okay. 4 shutouts on the season. So I said he had an up and down season. He played 59 of the games, so he had a lot of work. Thomas Greiss was just not good at all. 366 with an 891 save percentage. He's going to be gone after this season. And again, Magnus Hellberg. Okay. I got in a couple Twitter scraps where I don't understand what people really were expecting with Magnus Hellberg. He won his game. He played the last game of the season and beat the Devils, and he played well. I'll give him that. But he's a 32-year-old with 5 games of NHL experience, and people were losing their mind. Start Hellberg, start him, like he's the next coming of Dominic Hasek. I'm like, guys, this, he's probably not coming back. I think it's one of those things where they kind of brought him in, and we'll see how it goes. Could he be the backup next year? Yeah, he could, but I'm assuming there's a lot better options out there that you can go for, like a Braden Holtby or something. I'd rather have Braden Holtby over Magnus Hellberg. Are you kidding me? So I didn't understand it. I really didn't understand. People were just like, we should start Hellberg. Yeah, but they were talking about starting him against Toronto. You want him to get lit up? Go for it. It's not going to look too good. Cap space, draft picks this year. First round pick, 2 seconds, a third, 3/4, a fifth, and then 2 sevenths. So a lot of draft picks this year, and hopefully we hit on a lot of those too. Now, looking at this situation for a long time, even the last few years, wasn't a lot of guys with term. So you're looking at your top 9 forwards are signed, and there's not a whole lot to do here. I mean, Larkin, Vrana, Bertuzzi, Suter, Sundqvist. I'm not even going to say Adam Ernie, he's still here, but Rasmussen and Lucas Raymond, they all have deals. Zadina's an RFA. He's going to get signed to a bridge deal and probably only make a couple million. I mean, probably not even, because, look at Rasmussen, like 1.46. That's really nothing. It's a great deal for Michael Rasmussen. And so Zadina's going to get signed. I could see Sam Gagner coming back for a year, probably around the same amount. Giovanni Smith, he's still here too. I don't think he's just going to be an in and out of the lineup type player. Mitch Stevens, RFA, he'll be back. He was hurt a lot this season, but I think he will be kind of a really good on the fourth line. There are some injured players we'll go through too. Danny DeKeyser, he's done. I mean, you're going to save $5 million in the cap. Philip Hronik has another couple of years. Mark Stoll, like I said, I think might be coming back. Osterley coming back next year at 1.3. He was a scratch a lot, and I liked his game at times. I mean, there was times where he was actually like on the second power play unit. I like how he moves the puck. So I'm kind of wondering, again, new coach, maybe he'll get he'll get used a little bit more. Seider still on his rookie deal. Same with Lindstrom. Oli Uelevi was picked up off waivers. Never really got it like a fair shake, I don't think. So I don't think he'll get tendered an offer. Jake Wallman weirdly was a rookie this year apparently, because of his games and stuff. I mean, old man bunting status for Jake Wallman, but he played really well in terms of like getting rid of Nick Leddy, getting Wallman, Sundqvist, and a second was a steal of a trade. Any trade, if I think is it Doug Armstrong is the St. Louis GM, anytime that he gets a trade offer or a phone call from Steve Yzerman, I would just hang up, because you're getting fleeced. Because first it was the Fabry for De La Rose deal. De La Rose is like in Sweden now. And then this Leddy trade. I mean, Jake Wallman's getting re-signed. I think he's in your top 4. And and then in goal, like we said, Grice is gone. Hellberg is a UFA. I don't know if you bring him back. And then Nedeljkovic has another season at $3 million. It's a good deal. And then some of the injuries, like I said, Robbie Fabry got re-signed $4 million for the next 3. I think Carter Rowney's probably gone. Played sparingly, but he's pretty replaceable. Into some of the I was in on roster, but Joe Veleno was on the roster. I think they just technically like sent him down at the end of the season. Might be just a cash thing. He's back next year again. Very affordable deal. I think you're going to see Jonathan Bergen actually make the team as a forward. That would be kind of nice to see. I mean, really everybody else on the list is pretty, again, replacement level. Looking at that Cross Hannes at the bottom here, he signed his entry level deal. He had a good season in the NCAA, or it wasn't NCAA. I think he was in the WHL. And then in defense here, Vero Sabrango played. They both played in the World Juniors, and they probably will again in August when they redo it. Albert Johansson, I think, is another player that could maybe, compete for a spot. He's 21 years old. It's not like he's 19. He had a really good season in the SHL in Sweden. Jared McIsaac, I feel like I've been talking about him for like 12 years, but he's only 22. He just had a lot of injuries. So another guy that can maybe make the jump. And then obviously Edvinsson, I think he'll be there as well. And then in goal, I mean, Sebastian Cossa had a good season, WHL. He signed his entry-level deal. I mean, really every other goalie I don't think is ever going to make it up to the Red Wings, so not really worth talking about. So all in all, I mean, there's going to be some changes. And, the needs, what do I think the needs are? Obviously, backup goaltender. You definitely need some depth on defense, because if you're going to rock with Seider, Edvinsson, Hronik, Wallman, Lindstrom, Stahl, that's your 6. You want to maybe add someone to that mix so that, the bottom pair, you can kind of rotate through. I think up front, you definitely want an elite center. I don't think you're going to get one this year. You two guys that I kind of was watching, they're in the same series right now. Or no, they're not. I lied. Is Vinny Trocheck from, I think, Hurricanes. He looks really good. He's going to be an unrestricted free agent. I wouldn't mind him coming in. He had a really good season too this season. Or even a guy like Ryan Strome on the Rangers. I could see, maybe looking at him. Andrew Kopp is on the Rangers. I think he would be an effective center to kind of back up Larkin and maybe kind of have Suter on that third line. Veleno could be the guy too. He's still developing. He could be your second line center eventually. So it could come internal. I think they will make a signing. I mean, Yzerman did say he's got a list a mile long. He's like, I don't know if I can get these guys, but like I said, in goal, a guy like Braden Holtby being a backup to Nedeljkovic could be nice. Again, Hellberg, I think you're kind of, I think you don't just hand him the job. You need him to compete for it. So that might be something where you go, hey, we're giving you, a contract, but you got to earn it. Or it's a player tryout. Who knows? Because he's UFA as well. So I think there's definitely some changes. I don't know, trade market. Everybody talks about the draft and there's always going to be movement, and there might be. I mean, Yzerman plays things really close to the chest, and we know that. He says a lot of things without saying anything. In a way, I really like it because he doesn't give you timetables. He doesn't tell you, hey, this is what to expect. You don't have expectations, so you kind of just let him do his thing. And when results happen. But next season, what do I expect? I expect them to be a lot better than this year. Obviously, this rebuild, I say it's almost like when you jump into the pool and you jump in, you're sinking to the bottom, right? And then eventually your feet touch. For a long time, the Red Wings were sinking. And I think last year was when their feet touched the bottom. And this year was where I expected them to push off and come back up to the surface a little bit. That push off is happening, but I think their toes are still on the bottom of the pool, if that makes any sense to anyone out there. But that's where I thought that maybe their toes would be off the floor already, that they'd be a little bit more on their way up. So next year, maybe they're halfway up. But if we're going to go with that analogy, if things don't go well next year, it's almost like, hey, you're losing air. You need to get to the top quicker. But I don't think Yzerman's one to panic. He did say in his press conference that anytime he's made or forced a trade or a free agent signing, he's regretted it. So I think it's something where he'll have to just kind of sit back and wait. And if it's a fit, it's a fit. If not, it's not. And I know that sounds frustrating, but to me, I think it's probably the best way to do it because there's hundreds of examples of different teams that make these deals and signings where you might go, what are they doing? And it doesn't work out. And I think Yzerman having the luxury of time of all of us being fans of him as a player and now as a GM, because he's successful, works in his favor because he does have a lot more time than if, Joe Blow came in here. We would probably already be kind of a little bit like, hey, like, where are we going here? But you're already seeing like only a couple of his draft picks have started playing. Seider and Raymond are really the only ones that he's drafted that are playing now. Now Edvinsson coming in, you have young guys that are going to maybe Ken Holland, stayovers like Berggren, I think was drafted by him. So was I think Johansson was too, if I'm not mistaken, but you're going to have to be patient. I'm going to have to be patient. I'm still wearing the jersey. There it is. That's the new one. See, look at the kind of pops there. I don't know if you can see that, but kind of interesting. This is next year's jersey that we were talking about last time, but changes are going to be made. And I know I'm kind of saying the same thing over and over, but there's no definitive answer, and people can go and look and go, oh, here's a list of guys that I think they should go for. And there's going to be a lot of unrealistic ones. I mean, fans, can fly off the handle a little bit. Just go look at the trade machine on Cap Friendly. You'll laugh because there's some that are just insane. There's no shot of that happening. I don't see a big, huge trade happening where they pick somebody up where you're not expecting. But again, it's Yzerman, so you never know. I mean, he's done things where, blows you out of the water and it all works out. So going forward, I think the Red Wings didn't have the season that I thought they were going to. They played some exciting hockey at the beginning. They petered out at the end. The effort level wasn't there. Coaching change was needed. It happened. It's the last thing that they haven't really tried yet. The players and personnel, have been moved around. The coaches really haven't. So I'm excited to see who they bring in. What I will say is if it's someone that you don't know who it is, don't panic, because guess who does know who it is? Steve Yzerman and his staff. Okay. So if it's someone that, it's NCAA guy, that you don't know, he's going to be the right one for the job, and you have to trust your GM. Right. And I mean, the armchair GMs that want, John Tortorella, do you really think he's the coach to come in here and help Philip Zadina? No, it's not going to happen. He's the one that doesn't like the Zegras goal. You know what I mean? So till next time, like I said, me and Bobo, we're going to talk about a lot of things happening in the NHL leading up into the playoffs. Now we are in the first round of the playoffs. So until next time, Go Red Wings. Hopefully we see some changes, some big ones, some good ones. Until next time, talk to you later.